The Middle of the Pack podcast.
Again, we've done a lot of research on caffeine. We find people generally take them too late in the race. Caffeine takes about 45 minutes to properly kick in. So we would recommend taking them about halfway through whatever race you're doing. A lot of people take them with 20 minutes to go, but you're not getting the benefit only when you're collecting your medal.
And that's George Sherwood from Precision Fuel and Hydration on the Middle of the Pack podcast, episode 31. So we will, as always, start by asking George not only about all his wonderful knowledge on gels, hydration and fueling, but we started off by asking him about his own journey in running, and this was his reply. Welcome to episode 31 of the Middle of the Pack podcast.
Okay, so I'm a retired triathlete.
Very
I got
good.
into triathlon back in 2009. Before there was all this knowledge about gels and things like that. So I took part in triathlon up to Ironman, half Ironman, right from 2009 up to 2019 when I got a hip replacement. So I don't run anymore. I just cycle. So it was too much pounding on my hip, my right hip. So I had to give up the running.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Ironman. I got to the World Championship a couple of times in 2017 and 2018, the half Ironman World Championship in Tennessee and in South Africa. So I sort of ticked all those boxes.
And you say that was pre-fueling, pre-gels and things. So how did you...
Yeah. So to put in some sort of perspective, the first Ironman I did in 2010 in Switzerland, I had to wear 2 Garmin watches because the battery only lasted 6 hours in your Garmin at that time. So you had one for the swim and the bike, and then you had a second one for the run. And very little knowledge back then in terms of fueling, hydration and things like that. So it was very much hit and miss in what you'd learn from the internet and things like that. Whereas nowadays, it's far more information, more specific information. And I'm part of the athlete support team now at Precision Hydration. So we give a lot of advice in terms of fueling and hydration to athletes from all different sports. Not only running and triathlon, cycling. It could be GAA, rugby, just general fitness, high rocks, things like that. So all that information and fueling and has come I've seen such a long, big progression over the years with all this information that certainly if you get your fueling right, it will make a big difference to your performance on race day.
You've got a day job as well, but you're obviously the representative for Precision in Ireland then as well. How did you get into that?
Yeah, so if I scroll back to 2014, 2015, I did a couple of Ironman and I came off the course totally dehydrated. I would get, rather than cramping, I would get terrible nausea, dizziness, and I'd have to sit in the corner of the recovery tent for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then I'd be fine. I'd get some food and drink into me, I'd be fine. And back before there was any podcasts and things like that, I used to buy Triathlon 220 magazine. It was sort of the Bible for anyone who was doing triathlon in the mid-2010, 2011, 12. And Precision Hydration always used to have an advert in it that said they had an online sweat test. You could go on and do a sweat test. And the algorithm to the answers that you put in would give you an answer of how much sodium you should be replacing when you're competing. And they had 3 different strengths of sodium, which they still do today, the 500, the 1000, and the 1500. So I ordered a box of the 1500s and took it. And I found them pretty good. And the following year, I sort of forgot about it, went by the wayside, did my training, turned up and did Barcelona Ironman in 2015. I had the same outcome. I was dehydrated. So I decided I needed to do something a bit more. And I went to the UK to do the actual sweat test, which I do here in Ireland now. And at that time, the 2 guys in Precision Hydration were operating from their bedroom. It was only the very infancy of the company. They had a secretary, Dawn, who was still with them. And there was Andy and Johnny, and that was the total staff. Now they have 50, 60 staff alone in their head office in the UK, so they've really grown. However, when I was over with them, they talked me into being the sweat test centre for Ireland. So I came back on the plane with my test kit all ready to test everyone in Ireland. Unfortunate thing is no one had heard of the brand. No one had heard of sweat testing. So for the first probably 3 or 4 years pre-COVID, it was a real battle. I spent all my life in sales, but it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. At the Marathon Expo in the RDS in 2018 with my son, trying to convince people to buy electrolytes in sachets and take them in sachets on the run, double the marathon the next day. But things developed from there, and after COVID, they developed all their energy fueled products. And from then on, it's been a success story. And we test everyone around the country nowadays, so it's nearly full time operation.
So they started more in electrolytes rather than energy gels then?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was just salt tablets and 3 electrolytes. That was it for the first 4 years when I was with them.
Okay.
And that's all we had. So a very limited portfolio of products. It was specifically just hydration. And what happened then was we were recommending other brands. People would ask, athletes would all ask questions of how to fuel. And we spent most of sweat tests discussing fueling and how to use gels and recommending other brands to go along with our electrolytes. So during COVID, the guys in the UK developed a range of fueling products, gels, caffeine gels, jumbo gels, and more recently chews and chew bars. So COVID gave them a time to reset and look at the overall business and have more easy to use products that people wanted. Like there's no taste or flavor in any of the products that we have in terms of the gels. So they're relatively easy on your stomach, which is great for people who don't like gels. They're easy to take, and the numbers are on the front of the packet, so it'll tell you exactly how much fueling you're getting in. So it's really easy to work out what you need. And the company's gone from strength to strength since then.
And you have a website as well that you can go in and fill in information on as well, don't you?
That's right. We have a couple. We're sort of pretty unique. We have a lot of touch points with our customers. So not only do we do an online sweat test still, we do the physical sweat test. On our website we have a fueling planner where you can do a fueling plan for any sport, any event that you like. And we also do, which is unique, we do 20-minute free video calls with anybody who wants to talk about fueling or hydration, no matter what sport they take part in. And you'll get myself or anyone on the team, the athlete support team, anywhere in the world they could be. And you get your 20 minutes. It's not a sales call. It's a pure information call dedicated to you, what you want to talk about in your sport, at your pace that you run at your speed. You don't have to be an elite athlete. You can be middle of the road runner. You can be the last person in the race. You still get the same information about fueling and hydration. You just go onto the website, pick a slot that suits you at a time that suits you, and the guys will link up for 20 minutes, half an hour phone call, and you'll get a lot of valuable information about whatever sport that you take part in or what fueling they think you need. So it's a unique brand to offer all those off services free of charge, most of them. So it's certainly they give back a lot to the sporting community.
It was one of the things that probably was not necessarily a curveball, but one of the things that caught me on the hop, because I was kind of going, yeah, I can build my training, and I was used to doing 5Ks, 10Ks, and then suddenly you're in this minefield of people saying you need to start taking on gels. But I have to say the Precision website was nearly a game changer in that it does offer so much, but still in all there's so many people that I still talk to and they have no idea about what they're supposed to be doing and whether they should be doing it in training or whether they should be doing it just for speed sessions. But you do need to practice, don't you? You need to be able to do it in every kind of run that you're doing in a way, really. What's the kind of basic guidelines that you would give out for, let's say, middle of the pack runners now?
Okay, so anything over 45 minutes session, you probably need to start thinking about fueling. So 45 minutes up to an hour and 20 minutes, you sort of need to think, I need to bring some extra fuel with me rather than just going out the door and going for a run. So we would talk about the 3 levers. We use a suggestion like that where we talk about carbohydrates for fueling, fluid replacement, and sodium. So we break it down into 3 different categories. So everyone would need, if you're going for an hour plus to 2 hours, you need some carbohydrates to give you energy to replace what you've used up. And fluid replacement is very important on warmer days or for people who are heavy sweaters. We all sweat at different amounts. Um, Myself, I sweat very little salt, but a lot of fluid. So for me, on a warm day, replacing fluid is very important. And then we look at sodium. Sodium replacement varies between everybody we test, and everyone loses some sodium to some extent. We have heavy salty sweaters down to very low salty sweaters. If you take the sweat test, you can actually find out what you are. But a lot of people would have a vague idea how salty they are. And that's important if you're going long distance for more than a couple of hours, that you would replace salt, especially a half marathon or a full marathon, to replace some sort of salt. You'd perform better, you'd feel better, and you'll be less dehydrated. So it's well, as you go longer, as you step up the distance, especially in running, you need to definitely consider those three things. And it's very different running a marathon than a 10K, as you know.
And Precision offer all of the above, don't they?
Yes, yeah, we can. And as you said, if you go on the website, we now employ, I think in the UK, there's 16 sports scientists dedicated just to generate information for athletes. And we have a knowledge hub on the website where there's thousands of articles for all different sports, different medical conditions that you can delve into and have a look and read. They're only 2 or 3 minute reads, but they're very informative. And there's a lot of information there for any runner, any standard cyclist, any sport you like. There's a lot of very good information there.
I did the sweat test before the Cork Marathon, and I'm sure I was a low salty sweater.
Yes.
But I remember being in the room with you, and we had heaters on, and I wasn't the little disc that was on my arm wasn't filling up as quickly as we were hoping.
Yeah.
So I assumed that was the case. So the result of that really meant that I didn't need to have as much salt as others would, but I still obviously the kind of, I suppose, the no-brainer is you have to have carbohydrates, don't you?
Yeah.
And then I was faced with the dilemma then of being a 4-hour marathon person, so I had to take approximately 8 gels, I think, was my thing at the time.
Yes.
So the norm really is every 35 minutes, or every 20 minutes, or is it 30 minutes or 35 minutes? I myself go 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, as I said, we make it very easy for our customers. So we put on the front of the packet how much carbohydrates are in it. So as a general rule of thumb, at least 60 grams of carbs per hour.
Okay.
Some people are taking more than that. So ours if you take a 30-gram gel, there's a big 30 on the front. So 2 of those every hour would be a great start off with. The biggest thing I come across every single day is people under fueling. No, it's not a sales ploy, but if I ask people, how did you fuel your marathon? Oh yeah, I took 2 gels every hour. And you ask them again, tell me exactly what you took on the day. Well, they took 2 gels the first hour, and then they took 1 the second hour. They forgot the third hour, and they didn't feel like it the last half an hour. So it turns out over the 3.5 hours, they only took 3 gels. And they wondered then why they were walking at 20 miles and feeling rotten and feeling terrible after all the training they put in. So a lot of it is dehydration. As you become dehydrated, you're making wrong decisions, poor in-race decisions as well. So it's a combination of getting your hydration correct, which makes, if you're properly hydrated, you'll make better decisions in race, and then taking your fuel. Everyone talks about hitting this famous wall after 20 miles, and mainly it's down to just lack of carbohydrates.
And is that the fact? That is the fact, because I've heard that quite a lot.
It can happen when I was doing triathlon, I frequently bonked on the bike, which means you just ran out of energy. So that's generally what the ploy is. So it's very important. Even 2 gels per hour, 60 grams of carbohydrates. You think yourself like putting petrol in the engine. But the car's going to run out of engine after about 2 and a bit hours.
Yeah.
You can't expect your body to still run at the pace that you're running at if you're not going to put in any fuel. It just makes common sense, really. So 2 gels per hour is a general rule of thumb. However, we have other racers who they could be running a sub 3-hour marathon, sub 240 marathon, and they're just going at a higher intensity. And these guys can take 3 gels an hour. They're consuming up to 90 grams of carbs and more you can train your stomach and your gut to absorb that kind of carbohydrate, but it would take a number of weeks in training to get up to that kind of level.
I think I actually think when you say that, I actually think that's one of the problems people have is that, and I would probably have been guilty of it myself. I'm going out going, I'll be grand. I'm only going out for an hour and a half, so I'll take one gel and that'll do me. Whereas in marathon training, I probably should have had, I don't know, three just to get my stomach used to it. And
Yeah.
I remember in the Cork Marathon coming, maybe just listening to you speaking, maybe I wasn't making wise decisions, but I was kind of going, I don't feel that great. I'll skip the last gel. And in Dublin, I said, I don't feel that great. I'll take the last gel. And it felt so much better. And I don't know whether that's a kind of I think people blame the gel sometimes for not feeling that well. And it
Yeah.
possibly
Yeah.
is needing to fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely need a fuel. And it is a combination, as I said, the three levers, the fuel, fluids, and sodium, because a lot of people could be really, if we talk about just hydration and sodium, a lot of our customers who only run maybe 10Ks or half marathons, they could be cramped really badly, but they don't know because they're only running for an hour to an hour and a half. And it's generally after about 2 hours when the sodium runs out in your body, out that you've used in sweat, you've used up all your sodium. And only then do they start to cramp, become dehydrated. So it's very important to like fluid, carbohydrates, and sodium, especially for
And
the heavy sweaters.
and there's a pre-race routine as well that you recommended, isn't there, with taking the
That's correct. Yeah,
1500.
that's right. So we do a range of, as I mentioned, electrolytes. We do the 500, the 1000, and the 1500, and they're all color coded. And the color just denotes strength. It's not. They're all similar citrus flavor. But the strongest one, we've done a lot of work and research around preloading, and it definitely adds a benefit to runners. If you just take one the night before, one of the first 1500s, and one in the morning of the race, just to preload your blood sodium with it just loads up blood sodium, and you go into the race fully loaded rather than dehydrated. Or a lot of people would drink a couple of liters of water the few days beforehand, and that's shown to have just washed people out, and they spend most of those couple of days going to the toilet, washing out all the nutrients and sodium in their system. And on race day, they wonder then why they were a bit flat, felt a bit flat during the race or at a game in a match. And sometimes you can overdo it with the water intake. So we would just recommend the night before, having the 1500 to preload on the morning of the race. Then during the race, you take on whatever electrolyte have you taken the test, whichever one that is, or salt tablets, depending on the heat, how much you sweat on that.
And is there any benefit to carb loading with gels, or are you better off to do that with your pizza and pasta and real food?
Yeah, and we have customers who do both. Not generally don't preload with gels. We could preload with a carbohydrate, one of our chew bars, which have 60 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
They could preload and carb load with our drinks mix. Again, it's easy to take. Some people who maybe don't like pizzas or pasta, they can carb load with that. A lot of people are now switching to use, we have a 60-gram chew bar, and they might take that just an hour before an event. Like the 60 gram would give you a full hour's worth of energy, so it just tops up the carbohydrate levels pre-race. And again, they're like a jelly cross between a jelly bar and a marshmallow kind of texture, and they're easy to take on the stomach. 2 or 3 bites and it's gone, but you've got an hour's worth of energy. And they were released last year, so they're really popular.
Yeah, I know. I use them actually often, even if I'm going to, if you had breakfast that's slightly bit earlier, feeling a bit hungry,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
have a chew of them before you get there.
yeah,
And then there's also the caffeine gels. Now,
yeah. Caffeine is popular with a lot of people. Generally, we find people again. We've done a lot of research on caffeine. We find people generally take them too late in the race. Caffeine takes about 45 minutes to properly kick in. So we would recommend taking them about halfway through whatever race you're doing. A lot of people take them with 20 minutes to go, but you're not getting the benefit only when you're collecting your medal. So halfway through the race is the ideal time to take.
Well, there must be a placebo effect because I I took one and a half marathon, and I'd say I nearly felt after about 10 minutes that I was going. This was even last weekend. I was going. This is brilliant. Um,
I, and then that relates back to how much coffee you drink. If you drink a lot of coffee, they won't have that much of effect. Um, so if you're a heavy coffee drinker, you won't get as much of a kick as if you're a non-coffee drinker.
do you know you said that to me in the sweat test, and I had been thinking about it anyway, and after that I gave up caffeinated drinks. I gave up coffee and caffeinated tea even, and then I found the gels during a race like they were like a superpower. You know,
Yeah.
compared to
It
what they
does.
were. You know,
Yeah, yes, it
and
does make a
no, I'm not
difference.
saying everyone should give up their coffee and tea, but it definitely in the marathon, halfway through my marathon, which is 2 hours to go, I took a gel, and I think I took another one about an hour to go as well. And they definitely gave me that lift and almost, I mean, I'm not want to say it took away the mind monsters for the last part of the race, but it definitely helped. No, not everybody can have caffeine gels, I know,
Yeah,
but, and it
definitely
is wrong.
focus. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, definitely focuses the mind, keeps you more alert. Well, that's
Yeah.
what caffeine does. But especially in the back end of the race, it does keep you more focused on what I need to be doing. I need to get more fluids from the aid stations. I need to take on another gel, perhaps. It just keeps the concentration a bit better.
But you can take too much, can't you? Like you can overdo caffeine.
Yeah, again, it's some people just take only caffeine gels. I have some customers who just use caffeine gels in marathons. So yeah, horses for courses, whatever, whatever their stomachs are able to take. But generally, it's best halfway through to have one, and then near probably a bit later then as well if it's a longer event.
So if you're doing, we'll say, a 1.5 hour half marathon, you are better off to take it still halfway through, or
Someone will take some people like in marathon. A lot of people might take one before the swim start,
okay,
just to give them a little pep up before during the swim. Again, half marathon, a gel beforehand, and maybe one after half an hour again, and one after an hour. So two gels is all you need to carry. But um, again, you can preload with a bigger gel maybe beforehand. Everyone is slightly different. You can have different fueling plans. I have some people who take the PF90, the jumbo gel that we do. They
yeah,
might take that about 20 minutes before the marathon. So they're more or less they're topped up for the first hour. So they don't have to take any gels on board until 1 hour is up. And there's less to carry them as well because it's about logistics then after that, especially if you're going maybe 4 hours or 4 hours plus. As you know, you have to carry 8 gels perhaps. It's all about cutting down the what you have to carry and making logistics easy.
yeah. I have a very discreet belt, but it's got a great capacity, so carrying them was never the problem. It was just always making sure you were getting it right, and just get your timings right, and sticking to the plan. Really,
Yes, that's really important. Really,
yeah,
that's like I said, that's crucial. You stick to if you have a plan, 2 gels an hour. It's very interesting to see the people who actually, when they stick to the plan, they hit their PBs or they hit the race target what they want to hit. But the amount of people who fall off because they're not fueling properly, it's incredible. Even good people who you think would have it, elite athletes who you think would have their nutrition sorted, half of them are winging it,
yeah.
and the other guys who actually tick the box, follow the plan, it's so much they find it so much easier because they're fueled properly, everything's going to plan, they're running properly. So fueling is key on the longer events.
And tell me, does the drinks mix add to the hydration as well? If you're using, we'd
Yeah,
say 250.
some people will bring a drink that are the precision hydration drinks mixed. We do two different versions. We do one which has sodium in it and one without. So a lot of people will bring the drinks mixed with the sodium in their bottles. They're carrying a belt or a bottle. So they've got hydration, they've got sodium, and they've got energy just in the one bottle.
Yeah,
And that's very popular with cyclists and trail runners, to be honest, because they've got one bottle that has everything,
yeah.
other than splitting up between energy and just pure fluid.
I did get the mix with the sodium. I didn't like it. I apologize. But then the mix without the sodium works as well. And then I use your salt tablets.
Yeah.
And I know other people have chewy things. Like I slow down when I take out. If I wipe my nose, I slow down. So
Okay.
the less chewy things. So the tablets, I was able to just, they're in the blister pack. I was able to put some
Yeah.
in a sweatband, and I took two during both marathons. And again, you know, you don't know whether they always work, but there was very little problems. So whatever
Yeah.
strategy I have must have worked.
Yeah. Some people will sellotape a salt tablet to their gel, so they take out their gel, have a salt tablet, so they know they have to take it. A lot of people forget about it. I'm a victim of that. Did an Ireland in Portugal and had a packet of sweat or salts tablets in my back pocket. Forgot about them completely. So it's stick them to the gel. They're there. You can see them. Easy to take with a mouthful of water at an aid station. So
And
like
is there a recommended amount as well for the tablets, or is it again based on a sweat test result?
generally it's based on the sweat test, but 1 per hour for anyone who hasn't done the test is a good place to start. Especially if it's a warm day and you're a heavy sweater, it is important to replace that sodium.
And can you take too much?
You'd have to take a lot.
Yeah.
It's all natural sodium, so it just comes out in your sweat. It comes out when you go to the toilet. You'd have to take a full packet to make any real difference, to be honest.
Yeah, so if I took two normally and I did go 1 an hour, it wouldn't be too much for me to do.
No,
Okay.
not at all, not at all.
And would that be this? Would the same question be for gels? Is there too much, or is it again?
Again, it goes back to the general rule of thumb of our particular gels would be 2 per hour. That's 60
Okay.
grams. As I said, some people are taking up to 3 an hour, and even a bit more, maybe one every 20 minutes, which is just under the 3 per hour. That's kind of the limit, unless you train your gut to take more. Some of the professional athletes might be taking a bit more than that. As a runner, it's hard. If you're a triathlete or a cyclist, you're on the bike, it's much easier because it's much easier to consume sitting down on the bike as opposed to running. Some of the triathletes are probably up to 100 to 120 grams per hour, some professionals. But again, that's easier if you're on a bike. You have a chew bar, you have a drinks mix, you have a gel. It's easier to consume that level. As a runner, 3 gels an hour is pretty good going, to be honest.
And generally within your website, it asks about races and where you're having it, and is it going to be hot?
If we have that on the race planner. A lot of people would travel abroad. They might be going to do a Seville Marathon in Valencia, and it's our warmer Ironman events. It is important, especially if you're training here in 10 to 12 degrees. If you go abroad to do a hot race, you will need more fluids. You will need more sodium. So it's a matter of being aware if I'm traveling to a warmer climate, I'm going to sweat more. I mightn't be able to run at the pace I thought I was going to run at. That happens a lot,
Yeah.
especially if you're training here and it's been raining for 2 months and you go to Spain to do a marathon and it's 30 degrees. You have to dial back your expectations and increase your sodium and your fluid intake. Like all these factors have to be taken into account, especially on the intensity that you're running at. You're not going to be able to maybe run as fast as you thought. So just to be realistic and manage the situation with your fluids and sodium intake.
So if if someone is starting off on the Cork Marathon plan, a lot of our listeners will be doing that. So what's the basic advice from Precision Fueling from
Okay,
the start?
basic advice and practice fueling and hydration and training. Don't leave it to race day. Well, make sure at least you've done during your long runs, maybe April, early May, that you practice with your fueling 2 or 3 times. So your tummy gets used to taking gels. Practice with the gels you're going to use on race day. Don't switch brands the night before. And fuel and the night and use your preload your hydration. Really key. Again, try everything out in training. Don't just wing it on race day. And if you decide to take 2 gels or 1 gel every hour, make sure you take it every hour, not just the first hour.
And the website, because I would probably advise that people should go onto your website almost now, really, and look
Yeah,
at
you
what
can.
what you have to offer. And
Yeah, so it's precisionhydration.com and loads of information there. The product, you can buy the products there, you can buy them locally. around the country. We're the Irish distributor. We have lots of stores from Newry to Limerick to Cork selling products. So it's worth trying them out. It's not a sales ploy, but they actually work, and with hundreds of athletes around the country using them. So with lots of success.
And tell me, the sweat test, is that something that's offered by appointment? Or I know I got it in the Edge Sport here, but how does that work if someone was interested in that?
Yeah, we sweat test daily at our base in Kilkenny. We're at our Instagram page, Peak Sports 3. There's a link there. You can book a sweat test with us. We operate Monday to Friday with appointments every day. We do sweat test days then, like you mentioned. We go to sports centres around the country. We test teams. We sweat test triathlon clubs, cycling clubs, running clubs. It's a matter of organising times and dates. But a lot of people travel to Kilkenny. Sweat test takes about an hour. It's done at rest, so there's no actual exercise involved. And we can give you results there and then on the day. And they're linked to your DNA and your genetics, so they never actually change once you have the results. It's unlike a VO2 max test or a cycling FTP test. The results stay steady. And once you follow the protocols, information they give you on the day, you'll always optimize your hydration going forward. Valuable piece of information for long distance athletes. So anyone doing 2 hours plus events, any endurance sports, trail running, cycling, Ironman, marathons, it's really good information. It's personalized to you and is only relevant to you. So I found it very fascinating, and lots of people do. Once they have the results, they can dial in their hydration specifically for them.
Yeah, I know. I found it was well worth doing, and I have not just because you're on. I mean, I do use Precision, and have found it through all my journey from when I was doing Cork Marathon last year right up to a race last week. I do find it really good, and I find it really easy on my tummy anyway. So it's been really good. And the advice that I got from you, and I know that Damien in the Edge, the the advice is always there, and it's always good. And yeah, I would advise people to look at the website and to reach out. It's brilliant. And I know you're a busy man, so I thank you for coming on and supporting the podcast and passing on your words of wisdom.
No problem. Thanks for having us, and look forward to seeing you again.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Padraig.
And that's George Sherwood, and thanks for his time and coming on the Middle of the Pack podcast, episode 31. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you found it beneficial. And it's definitely going to be an episode that we can revisit time and again if we're worried or wondering about a fueling strategy for any up-and-coming race. But I do advise you to look at a Precision Sports website and get all the information there. George has his own website here in Ireland as well, and I'll put that on some of the footnotes for the social media promotion of this particular episode. But for this week, thanks for listening, and keep on running.